Did they drink much?
I reckon they did. This here little fella was kicking blue blazes out of the mule.
For nearly a decade, the Beverly Hillbillies kept America entertained. But behind the laughter lay a web of secrets. Bitter feuds, devastating tragedies, and jaw-dropping scandals haunted the cast. One star's life took a chilling turn on Broadway's dark stage, while another's political ambitions unraveled in a very public downfall. The untold story of TV's most beloved family is more shocking than you ever imagined. Number 11. Buddy Ebsen. When the Beverly Hillbillies ended in 1971, Buddy Ebsen could have easily retired. He was 63, had spent nearly a decade as Jed Clampett, and was already a household name. But instead of taking it easy, he jumped into something completely different. In 1973, Buddy surprised everyone by stepping into a serious role as Barnaby Jones, a sharp-witted private investigator seeking justice for his son's murder. This was a huge departure from the laid-back, folksy Jed Clampett. But it worked. Barnaby Jones was a hit, running for 8 years. By the time the show wrapped in 1980, Buddy was 72 and had led 2 back-to-back TV hits, something very few actors ever accomplish. Even then, Buddy wasn't done. At 73, he starred in the TV movie Fire on the Mountain and followed it up with Stone Fox. In 1984, at 76, he had a recurring role in the action-packed show Matt Houston. Age didn't seem to slow him down one bit. One of his most surprising performances came in 1999, at the age of 91. He made a voice cameo in King of the Hill, proving his career had staying power, lasting nearly 4 decades after his rise to fame as Jed Clampett. But Buddy wasn't just about acting. He had a deep love for sailing, and even designed his own catamaran, Polynesian concept. This wasn't just a hobby, he was competitive. In 1968, while still filming the Beverly Hillbillies, he raced his boat in a grueling 125-mile competition from Newport Beach to Ensenada, finishing in under 14 hours. His creativity didn't stop there. Buddy wrote over 80 songs and even crafted 2 stage plays, The Champagne General and Turn to the Right. He was always coming up with new ideas, proving he was more than just a TV star. Later in life, he moved away from the Hollywood spotlight, choosing a peaceful home on Balboa Island near Newport Beach. It was the perfect spot for someone who loved the ocean as much as he did. But even in retirement, Buddy stayed active, sharing stories about his incredible career. In 2001, he appeared on Larry King Live, still full of energy and charm. Buddy Ebsen passed away on 6th July 2003 at the age of 95.
Buddy Ebsen, the actor who brought the backwoods to Hollywood, has passed away.
A week later, TV Land honored him with a marathon of the Beverly Hillbillies, a fitting tribute to a man who spent his life entertaining millions. Number 10. Irene Ryan. When the Beverly Hillbillies ended, many expected the 68-year-old actress to step into a quiet retirement. Instead, she launched into one of the most demanding performances of her career. Rather than cashing in on Granny Daisy Moses through commercials or spin-offs, she returned to live theater, proving that age was no barrier to ambition. Later that year, she joined a grueling 30-city tour of the musical Pippin, performing 8 shows a week. Despite nearing 70, Irene's boundless energy stunned everyone around her. She played Berta, the wise yet mischievous grandmother of the lead character, and her performance of No Time at All quickly became an audience favorite. Every night, theatergoers erupted into standing ovations, and even critics were enthralled. The New York Times noted that the applause was so overwhelming that her co-star often had to pause before delivering his next line.
men and their wars. Sometimes I think men raise flags when they can't get anything else up.
On 23 October 1972, Irene made her official Broadway debut, transitioning from sitcom icon to stage star with effortless grace. Her hard work paid off when she was nominated for a Tony Award. It should have been a triumphant moment. Instead, tragedy struck. During Pippin's performance, she collapsed on stage. At first, she brushed it off and insisted on finishing the show. But soon after, she returned to California, where doctors delivered devastating news. She had an aggressive brain tumor, glioblastoma, and only weeks to live. Even as she lay in the hospital, her name remained in the spotlight. On 16 April 1973, her Tony nomination was announced, recognizing the performance that had captivated audiences across the country. But she never made it to the ceremony. Just 10 days later, Irene Ryan passed away at 70. Her sudden death was a shock. Just weeks earlier, she had commanded the stage with her trademark fire. But even in her final days, she was thinking about the future. She left her entire fortune, which was over $1 million, to establish the Irene Ryan Foundation, dedicated to supporting aspiring actors. The first scholarships were awarded in 1972, and since then, the foundation has helped thousands of young performers launch their careers. Irene Ryan's career ended too soon, but her legacy endures. She was more than just Granny. She was a performer who never stopped pushing boundaries right until the very end. Number 9. Donna Douglas. Donna Douglas was America's sweetheart as Ellie Mae Clampett in the Beverly Hillbillies. Hollywood wanted her for a soap opera that could have made her even more famous, but she shocked everyone by turning it down. Instead of chasing more stardom, she found something far more personal: her faith. Just a few months later, in September 1971, Donna traveled to Israel, a trip that changed her life forever. She had a deep spiritual experience and decided to leave Hollywood behind. She became a gospel singer and inspirational speaker, using her voice in a different way. In 1982, she released her first gospel album, Donna Douglas Sings Gospel. Though it didn't top the charts, it still sold 50,000 copies, proving that her fans supported her new journey. She went on to release 3 more albums, with her last one, Back on the Mountain, coming out in 1989. During this time, she also opened up about a painful struggle she had kept hidden. While playing Ellie Mae, she secretly battled an eating disorder, sometimes eating as little as 500 calories a day and dropping to just 95 pounds. Nobody knew about it then, but she later said her faith helped her overcome it. Then, in 2011, Donna was back in the headlines, but not for music or acting. She sued Mattel and CBS for $75 million, claiming they used her image for an Ellie Mae Barbie doll without her permission. The legal fight lasted months, and while it was settled out of court, it proved that she was as strong and determined as ever. Over the years, Donna tried many things. In 1973, she got her real estate license, but after selling just 3 houses, one to a fan who bought it just because she was the agent, she moved on. Instead, she focused on writing. In 1993, she published Donna's Critters and Kids, a collection of children's stories with Christian messages. It sold over 100,000 copies. Later, she wrote Miss Donna's Mulberry Acres Farm and even a cookbook, Southern Favorites with a Taste of Hollywood, blending her Southern charm with Hollywood glamour. She stayed close to her fans, attending conventions and sharing memories of the Beverly Hillbillies. In December 2014, she revealed a fun secret. She had kept all of Ellie Mae's costumes, including her famous blue jeans and rope belt. Donna passed away on 1 January 2015 at 82. While the world remembers her as Ellie Mae, her real-life journey was just as remarkable. Number 8. Max Baer. Most people know him as Jethro Bodine from the Beverly Hillbillies, a role that made him a household name. But what seemed like the perfect Hollywood break turned into a lifelong struggle. The show ran for 9 years and left Max trapped in Jethro's shadow. Hollywood refused to see him as anything else, making it nearly impossible to find work. At first, money wasn't a problem. When the Beverly Hillbillies started, Max earned just $500 per episode. Even at the height of its success, his pay only increased to $800 per episode. Compared to today's TV stars, that was nothing. So when the show ended and the acting offers dried up, Max found himself in a financial and professional crisis. But instead of giving up, Max made his own way. In 1974, he produced, wrote, and starred in Macon County Line, an independent film with a budget of just over $100,000. Hollywood didn't expect much from it, until it earned a shocking $35 million at the box office. That success proved Max had more to offer than just playing a goofy hillbilly. He followed it up with Ode to Billy Joe, another unexpected hit that made $27 million. Suddenly, he wasn't just an actor. He was a savvy businessman. Then, in 1985, Max had a new idea: a Beverly Hillbillies-themed casino. Inspired by attractions like the Bonanza Ranch, he saw an opportunity to turn nostalgia into profit. The project took decades of legal battles and planning, but it showed his determination. Even if he couldn't escape Jethro on screen, he could use the character to build something big. But Max's life wasn't just about success. In 2000, tragedy struck when his longtime girlfriend, Cher Rhodes, passed away at their home in Tahoe, Nevada. The loss devastated him, and the media frenzy only made things worse. He was forced to grieve under public scrutiny, something no one should have to endure. Now, at 87, Max Baer Jr. is the last surviving cast member of the Beverly Hillbillies. His story isn't just about fame, it's about resilience. He took setbacks and turned them into opportunities, proving he was more than just Jethro. Number 7. Raymond Bailey. For nearly a decade, he had played the nervous yet sharp-witted banker Milburn Drysdale, a role that made him beloved by audiences. But when the show was canceled, Hollywood no longer had a place for him. At 67, he struggled to find work, landing only a few roles in Disney films like Herbie Rides Again and The Strongest Man in the World. Hollywood now saw him as nothing more than a stern authority figure, limiting his options. Bailey's decline wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. During the final seasons of the Beverly Hillbillies, he began showing signs of Alzheimer's disease. As his condition worsened, he withdrew from public life. By 1976, he could no longer recognize his closest friends. His wife, Gabby George, whom he had married in 1951, became his primary caregiver. Bailey, who once enjoyed meeting fans and engaging with others, now lived in seclusion between a houseboat and a small home in Laguna Niguel. The only castmate he kept in touch with was Nancy Kulp, whom he affectionately called Slim. Back in the 1970s, Alzheimer's wasn't well understood, and many dismissed it as simply old age. Bailey's health deteriorated rapidly, and with it came financial struggles. Despite the Beverly Hillbillies being one of the most successful sitcoms of its time, Bailey's earnings were modest. Actors then made around $2,000 per episode. Significant for the era, but nowhere near today's television salaries. Worse yet, rerun residuals were almost non-existent. As medical bills mounted, his savings dwindled. An ironic twist for the man who had played a character obsessed with money. Interestingly, while his Hollywood career faded, Bailey remained admired by bankers. During the Beverly Hillbillies' heyday, he received hundreds of invitations to speak at banking events each year. Many in the financial world appreciated how he made their profession look both vital and humorous. Few knew that before acting, Bailey had worked as a bank messenger in his 20s, an experience he later used to bring realism to Drysdale's character. Raymond Bailey passed away on 15 April 1980, at the age of 75 from a heart attack. He requested no public funeral, and his ashes were scattered at sea. Unlike some of his co-stars, his passing received little media attention, with only a brief obituary in the Los Angeles Times. But his impact endured. In 2019, the American Bankers Association posthumously honored him for making banking relatable and entertaining during tough economic times. Bailey once said, "Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a good time." Number 6. Nancy Kulp. Nancy Kulp was best known as Miss Jane Hathaway on the Beverly Hillbillies, but her life after the show was filled with unexpected twists, political battles, and personal struggles. Beyond her television fame,
they stand like boulders on the pebble-strewn landscape of Beverly Hills, like mighty oaks among bushes, like quiet.
she was a woman of resilience, determination, and unshakable principles. In 1984, at 62, Kulp made a bold move. She ran for Congress in Pennsylvania's 9th District. A proud Democrat in a predominantly Republican area, she focused on education and environmental issues. She argued that if Ronald Reagan could go from acting to politics, so could she. However, her campaign took a devastating hit when her former co-star Buddy Ebsen publicly endorsed her opponent. In a radio ad, he called her too liberal for Pennsylvania, a betrayal that deeply hurt her. The two had often disagreed politically, but Kulp never expected him to sabotage her campaign. She later snapped, "He's not the kindly old Jed Clampett. It's none of his business." She lost the race badly, earning only about a third of the votes. Though they reconciled before her death, the damage was lasting. Financially, Kulp faced challenges. She was paid $5,000 per episode during the Beverly Hillbillies, a decent sum at the time, but not enough for lifelong security. After the show ended, her acting roles became scarce, and by the 1980s, money was tight. When she was diagnosed with cancer, the cost of treatment made things even worse. She spent her later years quietly in Palm Springs, teaching acting to supplement her income and relying on modest rerun royalties. Unlike some of her co-stars, she never struck it rich from her TV fame. Kulp was private about her personal life, but passionate about civil rights and LGBTQ+ issues, supporting them before it was widely accepted. Near the end of her life, she confided in friends that she was a lesbian, though she never publicly came out. She married Charles Dacus in 1951, but they divorced a decade later. When asked about it, she simply said, "Some doors are better left unopened." After her failed congressional run, she found purpose in teaching. In 1985, she became a professor at Juniata College in Pennsylvania, teaching drama and media studies. Students adored her. She was tough but inspiring. She shared Hollywood stories while encouraging young minds to think critically about media and storytelling. Though she returned for occasional acting roles, teaching became her passion. Nancy Kulp passed away on 3 February 1991 at age 69. She was more than Miss Jane Hathaway. She was an actress, a politician, a teacher, and an advocate. Number 5. Bea Benaderet. Bea Benaderet charmed audiences as Cousin Pearl Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies, though her time on the show was brief, just 22 episodes in the first season. Despite this, her character became a fan favorite. On 17th October 1963, she filmed her final episode, officially leaving to star in Petticoat Junction. But behind the scenes, the decision was far more complex. At the time, Bea was secretly battling health issues. She had been diagnosed with a tumor in her left lung but kept it private. This happened just as the Beverly Hillbillies skyrocketed in popularity. Meanwhile, series creator Paul Henning offered her a choice: stay as Cousin Pearl or lead his new show, Petticoat Junction. Though she loved playing Pearl, the opportunity to star in her own series was too significant to pass up. CBS, eager to keep her on the Beverly Hillbillies, even doubled her salary. Bea hesitated but ultimately honored her commitment to Petticoat Junction. Adjusting to the new role wasn't easy. At first, she struggled to shake off Pearl's mannerisms, causing production delays. But her talent prevailed, and Petticoat Junction became a success. Despite her growing fame, her health deteriorated. By 1967, in the show's 5th season, she underwent surgery to remove the tumor. Doctors discovered her lung cancer had spread, leaving no treatment options. Still, Bea Benaderet continued working. Her final episode aired on 28 September 1968. Though she was too ill to appear on camera, her voice was used instead. On 13 October 1968, Bea Benaderet passed away. Buddy Ebsen, her former co-star, visited her before her death. Later, he shared her last words to him: "Tell Pearl I said goodbye." The loss stunned fans. Initially, Petticoat Junction avoided addressing her absence, stating that Kate Bradley, her character, was visiting relatives. Viewers felt this was an unfair send-off for such a beloved actress. Bea's legacy extended beyond her on-screen roles. Her son, Jack Bannon, honored her by guest starring on The Beverly Hillbillies in 1969. Decades later, in 2006, she was inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame for her early work. In 2018, on what would have been her 112th birthday, fans gathered for a special reading of a Lost Flintstones episode, written in her honor. Number 4. Harriet MacGibbon. Harriet E. MacGibbon became famous for playing Margaret Drysdale on The Beverly Hillbillies, a wealthy, snobbish socialite constantly exasperated by the Clampetts. But while her character was preoccupied with high society, MacGibbon's real life took a far different path, one shaped by personal tragedy, financial misfortune, and a hidden family legacy. By the time The Beverly Hillbillies ended in 1971, MacGibbon had already spent 50 years in entertainment. Though she continued acting, her roles dwindled, limited mostly to minor TV appearances. Despite a background in Shakespearean theater, she found herself typecast. In a later interview, she admitted frustration that Hollywood saw her only as Miss Drysdale, rather than the accomplished actress she had once been. Her personal life took a devastating turn in 1977 when her only son, William, passed away at 44. A respected art historian with a passion for Paul Gauguin, William had long battled depression. The loss shattered MacGibbon, leading her to establish a scholarship in his name, though she rarely spoke about it. Financial troubles compounded her grief. Despite earning well on The Beverly Hillbillies, poor investments left her struggling by the 1980s. As her health declined, MacGibbon withdrew from public life. Diagnosed with COPD, she relied on an oxygen tank and only ventured out for church services. However, one of the most remarkable aspects of her story lies in her ancestry. Her great-grandfather, Dr. Elizur Deming, was an abolitionist who used fake coffins to help enslaved people escape via the Underground Railroad. Though she rarely discussed this part of her heritage, in 1985, She donated his journals to a historical society to preserve his legacy. MacGibbon lived her final years quietly in Beverly Hills, enjoying tea, scones, and classic films. She cherished Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, one of her earliest works. In 1985, she attended a Beverly Hillbillies reunion, donning Mrs. Drysdale's famous fox stole, but leaving early due to breathing difficulties. She passed away in 1987 at 81, requesting no funeral. Her ashes were placed at Forest Lawn Cemetery beneath a plaque reading, "All the World's a Stage." Number 3. Shug Fisher. Shug Fisher was best known for playing Shorty Kellums, Jed Clampett's best friend, in the Beverly Hillbillies. Appearing in 17 episodes, Shorty brought country charm and humor to Beverly Hills. One of his funniest storylines involved banker Mr. Drysdale, who mistakenly thought Shorty was even richer than Jed. This led to Drysdale desperately trying to win Shorty's business, much to the amusement of the Clampetts. But Fisher's road to Hollywood was anything but easy. He grew up facing tough times. In 1924, he saw a comedian in a traveling medicine show and decided he wanted to be an entertainer. A year later, he and his father packed up their Model T and headed to California. Fisher took odd jobs, picking fruit and working in oil fields while performing at square dances. His career took off when he joined the Sons of the Pioneers, a famous singing cowboy group that worked alongside Roy Rogers. Fisher appeared in multiple Western films, playing music and adding comedic relief. He also became an unforgettable voice actor, providing the voice for Uncle Pecos, the guitar-strumming, stuttering mouse in the Tom and Jerry cartoon Pecos Peso. His version of Froggy Went A-Courtin' remains a classic. Beyond film, Fisher had a successful television career spanning 27 years. From 1955 to 1960, he was a regular on ABC's Ozark Jubilee, where he performed as both a singer and comedian. Later, he played pilot Charlie Kern in the adventure series Ripcord, showcasing his versatility as an actor. Even in his later years, Fisher never lost his passion for entertainment. He spent his final years in Studio City, California, surrounded by longtime friends. On 16 March 1984, he passed away after a long illness, with his close friend Ken Curtis by his side. He was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park. Though he is often remembered for his role in the Beverly Hillbillies, Fisher's legacy stretches far beyond that. His impact on country music, Western films, and classic television remains unforgettable. Number 2. Larry Pennell. Larry Pennell was best remembered for his role as Dash Rip Rock, the suave yet shallow Hollywood actor on the Beverly Hillbillies. Born on February 21, 1928, in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Pennell initially pursued a professional baseball career, playing in the minor leagues for the Boston Braves organization before shifting his focus to acting. Following his time on the Beverly Hillbillies, Pennell continued to have a steady career in television and film. He starred in the action-adventure series Ripcord between 1961 and 1963 as skydiver Ted McDougal, showcasing his athleticism and stunt skills. He also guest-starred in numerous hit TV shows, including Perry Mason, Hawaii Five-0, The A-Team, and Murder, She Wrote. In 1980, he gained attention for portraying Clark Gable in Maryland, The Untold Story, earning praise for his striking resemblance and performance. Pennell was well-respected among his Beverly Hillbillies co-stars. While his role as Dash Rip Rock was more of a recurring character, he reportedly had a friendly relationship with Donna Douglas and the rest of the cast. Unlike some Hollywood figures, he avoided major scandals and was known as a professional and charismatic actor on set. Though he never reached A-list status, Pennell's talent and versatility kept him working in the industry for decades. He remained active in acting until his later years, leaving behind a legacy as a dependable character actor. He passed away on August 28, 2013, at the age of 85. Number 1. Infamous guest stars. When a show is this popular, big names want to be part of it. Over the years, the show welcomed many famous guest stars, adding even more fun to the Clampetts' adventures in Beverly Hills. One of the standout guests was Elvia Allman, the voice of Clarabelle Cow for Walt Disney. She played Elverna Bradshaw, the so-called best friend of Cousin Pearl, though she spent most of her time mocking Pearl's style and trying to outdo her. Another famous voice actor, Alan Reed, best known as Fred Flintstone from The Flintstones, appeared several times in small roles. His most notable character was Gene Booth, a wrestling promoter who tried to fool Ellie Mae and the rest of the Clampett family. Perhaps the most famous guest star was Sharon Tate. Tate was a rising actress who had a recurring role on the show. She played one of Mr. Drysdale's bank secretaries, serving as an extra pair of eyes for his demanding wife, Miss Drysdale. The charm of the Beverly Hillbillies was in its ability to mix humor, heart, and unforgettable characters. Every week, audiences tuned in for 25 minutes of laughter as the Clampetts brought their old country ways to high society Beverly Hills. The show became a staple of American television, bringing smiles to viewers of all ages. And of course, no episode would be complete without the famous farewell. Y'all come back now, you hear? We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more amazing stories.